Hey, FanboyNation.
This is your pal Daffy Duck, and you're watching.
You're watching.
We're watching. You're watching Fanboy.
Fanboy. Fanboy.
Fanboy.
Fanboy.
A fanboy, etc.
FanboyNation.
Dot. I assume Tom.
I met this man at San Diego Comic-Con almost 8 years ago, and we did 3 interviews that day, and I called him Jared, I called him Jeff, I called him everything but his name that started with a J. Jeremy Adams, how are you today?
I'm doing well. That's great. That's funny, dude.
And you're like, do you have a vendetta against this Jared guy? I was like, I don't even know a Jared, and for some reason I kept calling you Jared.
No, it's great to see you, man.
You know, listen, it's fun talking to you. This is the perfect time. Lent starts next week.
Yeah.
And you are writing one of our favorite Catholics in all of comics, the Green Lantern, after signing a multi-deal with DC Comics. So congratulations.
It's interesting because I've always heard, now I've heard that he's half Jewish and half Catholic. Like there's like the cultural piece of it. As far as his religious take, I'd be interested. I'd be more interested in what he would give up for Lent. What would Hal Jordan give up for Lent? You know?
Picking fights with Star Sapphire.
Yeah, exactly.
But listen, man, congratulations on signing this multi-deal with DC. You've worked in their animated projects. You've worked on television. You've clearly worked with their comics before. You know, what's it like to get that contract signed for you and go, all right, here's the big recognition. We're making you a part of the family even longer.
I mean, it's unbelievably humbling. When I started I've always wanted to be in comics. I've come about it the backwards way through television and film and stuff. But when I started, the honest truth is I didn't think I would be able to, people are fickle. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know if fans would respond or if I'd have a career or if I'd do more than, a couple issues. And so I remember when Kevin McGuire drew a backup for The Flash when I was doing the Flash run. And I remember thinking like, well, if they fire me tomorrow, it doesn't matter. This is the top of the heap. I got to work with Kevin McGuire. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. But it just kept going. And so when they offered me the contract, when they came to me about it, it's just really humbling because it just felt like, I always feel kind of weirdly like an outsider, and I've only been doing it a few years. And so to have that kind of vote of confidence, it just feels really good. And it's exciting because I feel like it gives me a lot more opportunity to play with the toys that I haven't been able to play with yet in the DC universe. And if anybody's read my books, you know that that's a huge part of the joy I find is being able to bring in characters and things from other books I've read and play with all the toys I grew up playing with,
Right. And you're excited about that. And then your kids look at you and go, Dad, we're into the Vertigo imprint. All right.
Well, luckily they're so young. No, but eventually I'm sure. Right now they think it's really cool. There's going to be a moment where it's not cool, but I'm right now I'm just so soaking in the fact that they're like, Dad has a pretty cool job.
Until they realize they can't play with the Hall of Justice and the Batmobile and everything else that's behind you. And they're like, no, this is my office space.
I let them play with it. I gave up my preciousness with it a long time ago because when I got these, I abused them horribly, and I blame the commercials. Remember the Kenner commercials for Star Wars and the Superpowers commercials? They were very like build things and smash them into things. So, this Hall of Justice has seen better days. My Batmobile is pretty beat up. So I'm okay with them playing with it. And they love it. They still think they're rad toys.
Well, on the bright side, McFarlane re-released them. So if you need a backup.
I know. I've got a McFarlane Batmobile up there, and I've got some McFarlane. That guy, man. I mean, who would think the guy that like drew the best Mary Jane ever when I was growing up, and then reading Spider-Man, and then obviously when they went to do Spawn, but then he just became this toy mogul, and he just makes the best freaking toys. The price point on those toys are so affordable,
yeah,
and it's so exciting to me because I just think that kids can afford that stuff now. Mm-hmm. Like it's not that expensive, and compared to some of the other, like I tried to buy I don't know if it was a G.I. Joe or like a Marvel figure or something. And it was so expensive. And then I look over the Superpowers. I'm like, this is under $10. This is easy,
Right. It's us reimagining our childhood and getting everything back.
Yeah.
As everything progresses, signing on with DC, doing Green Lantern, your goal was to write comics. My goal is to voice Simon Baz. So if you
That's
can
awesome.
arrange that, I mean, come on,
All right.
you're on the book. You got a hotline. Pick up the bat phone. Let's make it happen. You know.
You would think you think that they would give me the time of day in the entertainment division? Ha 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 ha.
All right, at least Lego Simon Baz.
Right. I mean, that would be great, except they're not doing those anymore. But I do a lot of stuff for Lego stuff.
Right. Well, I can be hopeful, right?
Yeah,
We'll put it out there to get more Lego
You
series.
gotta wear the ski mask, carry a gat. Yeah.
You know what? I'll put this out there. I do have the same pistol that that Simon has. Like as soon as the comic came out, and I was like, I got that. And then I was like, oh yeah, we got the same haircut. We're both Lebanese. The only difference is he's Muslim and I'm Christian. That's it.
That's cool. I didn't know that. That's really cool.
So I was like, that's why I want to voice Simon. I was just like, come on, you want me to do the lantern, oath in Arabic? We'll do it. Come on,
That's
or
awesome.
French. Pick one.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, you're living the dream. You did all the Lego stuff. You did, so many of the animated stuff. And now you kind of worked backwards. Like, we'll pick on Jeff Johns for a second. Jeff started with comics and then worked his way to television. You started with film and television and worked your way back to comics.
Yeah, nowhere near as successful. But I did tell Jeff, I was like, I have like a Jeff Johns punch card, because it does seem that they put me on every book that it's like The Flash and then Green Lantern and then Aquaman, and I'm like, well, Jeff, next year whenever this contract ends up, I guess I have to start my own company. Call it like Phantom something. No, yeah, I work backwards, but that's just because I didn't have a clue what I was doing, and honestly, with entertainment in any form, there's no real clear way that you can get in the industry. When I graduated college, like being a comic writer, it seemed more elusive than being a filmmaker. Like that seemed very strange to me. My dad had drawn some comics, so obviously there was that passion for it growing up and a want to do that. But I never understood how. Like I just felt like you had to have an insurmountable amount of talent. And I was just such a fan of. I loved writers, but obviously the artists I followed like Jim Lee on X-Men, or then anything like Wildcats or whatever. And it wasn't years later I was like, oh, these were all written by Mark Grunwald that I loved, or Jeff Loeb or whatever. But yeah, I worked at it backwards. But like I said, it was just because I love telling stories, and I would go where the opportunities lied. And being in comics, though, is incredibly fulfilling. It's incredibly joyful because I get to work with some of the best people. And I haven't met people that are really mean yet. I'm sure I will.
That's because you're hidden away in your office playing with your toys and your kid.
Right. That's right. I got to tell you, the artists that I've worked with have been unbelievably good and kind and collaborative. And I just want to lift them up as much as possible, because the grind that they have to do and the ability that they have to do to decipher my hieroglyphics and make something, readable is amazing. And not just John Timms on Aquaman, who's phenomenal and the nicest guy ever, but Zermanico, who I think is just a generational talent on Green Lantern. But anytime we have a guest artist like Jack Herbert has been doing a couple of issues on Green Lantern, he's unbelievable. And I'd worked with him once on The Flash as well, and he's great. Will Conrad has been great on Flash Gordon, and Fernando Passarin, obviously, he drew my first comic I ever did, and we've worked on and off for years now, and he's killing it on Green Lantern Corps. I've never seen an artist more excited about working on something than Fernando Passarin working on Green Lantern Corps. So I'm lucky, man. I know it. Like I get it. Like I'm the first guy to be like, I don't know why they let me in the door, but I will try to stick around as long as possible.
Well, that's incredible. Well, Green Lantern Corps 1, Aquaman 2 just arrived mid-February in time for Valentine's Day. Green Lantern 20 arrives this week, and you're part of the DC All-In initiative. We have the Absolutes, and now we have the All-In. And the one thing that people either enjoy about DC or get frustrated with is the continuous revamping or the re-upping. You know, whether it was the various crisis iterations, whether it was New 52, you know, Rebirth, etc. But the fact that DC isn't scared to reinvent themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes it interesting in how the stories unfold.
Yeah, I think, it is funny because I think at least since I've been reading DC, they would occasionally do continuity reboots that, it felt like they were taking an etch-a-sketch to the universe. I think what Scott Snyder and Marie and everybody are doing now, I think is a very clever way of introducing, this other universe, but it is within continuity of the continuous universe with the all-in stuff. So I think it's cool, two pillars of a giant story, and it's really fun because when I started, it was right when COVID started, right when Warner Brothers had got bought out again. There were tons of cuts. They were, I felt like the foundation of DC Comics was somewhat shaky, but I was using it to my advantage because I was like, I'm just going to turn things in and until they fire me. And I have to give a lot of credit, like, Marie and the editors and Josh Williamson, especially, like, he really stepped it up and started kind of galvanizing writers and creators. And he was always, when I first started, he was very helpful and very kind and reached out and told me what's going on in the universe. Anyways, I felt like they kind of righted the ship, and it's a hard thing to do through such crazy storms of corporate management and restructuring, and now I feel like there's this really cool headwind with DC Comics. Not only is it just the comics and the creators and the books and that success, but then you have James Gunn coming in and breathing new life into the entertainment arena, where we have this Superman movie that is very, the expectation around it's massive, and it's very exciting to be part of DC right now. And I feel incredibly, I feel incredibly lucky.
Well, I'm going to put this out there to you, since we both know Tim Sheridan, and Tim's always fun to chat with and hang out with. He did his Alan Scott run.
Right.
So since you're doing Green Lantern and Green Lantern Corps, we're going to put you in Earth 2 for this scenario.
Okay.
All right. Since our sector, 2814, is so bad that we have like 8 Green Lanterns just for us.
Yeah.
All right. We'll give Earth 2 a second Green Lantern to be, Alan Scott's partner. Which Earth 2 character would you throw in as a new Green Lantern?
Oh my gosh. So wait, you're asking what Earth 2 character
would partner up with Alan Scott that isn't already a Green Lantern?
Oh my gosh, dude. And what's crazy is there's no Earth 2 anymore, really. But you're talking JSA characters.
Right. Like the JSA world.
I mean, listen, I have an affection for Jay Garrick, but you know what? I have like a weird love of Our Man. And I do love him. But if there's another character as a Green Lantern,
Mm-hmm.
dude, this is too hard. Stop it. I don't know. I mean, I think Our Man is one of those characters that's just not used enough. It'd be interesting to give him a ring, and he has more than that. Or wait, who else could I do? Who else would be interesting? I don't know, man. That's too hard of a question. It's going to take me forever to figure it out. And at midnight tonight, I'll wake up and I'll be like, "Oh my gosh!"
Right. I'll get a text at 3 a.m. going, "This is who it is."
This is who it is. Yeah.
I do like Our Man though.
Catalog it because they've all integrated into the main universe. So now I'm like, okay, but what are we considering Earth 2? Like, my nerd brain breaks down,
Right. Yeah. I will go with Helena Wayne.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
But Our Man's interesting because he gets 1 hour with his own powers, and then another 24 with the lantern. So that 1 hour itself, or 1 hour with the ring, or 24 with the ring and then 1 hour of his own, that combination in that 1 hour has just got to be intensified.
I mean, but what if you only gave him, because there was this great, Tomasi had written this Green Lantern Corps issue where Guy Gardner was part of like a spec ops team of Green Lanterns, and they would take basically like a pill of Green Lantern power, and it would dissolve over time. So they had Green Lantern power for a certain amount of time, and I thought that was like the coolest issue. And I'm like, but what if our man had like a Green Lantern pill that only gave him Green Lantern powers for X amount of time? Would be kind of interesting too.
That's a backup story right there.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. As everything progresses for you, you know, your kids are healthy and happy, so we're thrilled for you for that. You're living out a childhood dream. You still got your toy collection that your parents didn't throw out.
Yeah.
You know, when you sit there and you're like, you reflect, because every once in a while we're so go that it's like work, work, work. When you take that 20 minutes to reflect, and obviously you've referred to yourself as lucky, but like when you get to kick back and go, wow, I pulled this off, like, is it this weird like sigh of relief? Is there still the excitement? Is there the moment where you want to call up old friends and go, I told you I'd get into comics? Like, how does that work out for you?
It's a combination of a lot of things. I feel, I'm a pretty religious guy. I feel very blessed and very humbled by it, because I do feel like I can see through the course of my life, like a lot of just kind of like miracles that got me to certain locations that had nothing to do with me. Sometimes it's about showing up in those moments, and I'm very grateful for it. I feel very humbled. There's this reoccurring image I have of 8-year-old Jeremy being like so pumped, like so thrilled. And, as a kid that grew up, very modest to poor means, and, divorced family, like some of that stuff at the time, to see that, comics were always such a bright spot, and to see my love of comics become something that I actually get to do as a living is there's just this overwhelming feeling of gratitude. It really is a lot of gratitude. The other part of it, it's like, I don't want to call people up and be like, oh, look, I made it. I'm not like that, but I do have a lot of people, friends that I have grown up with, that seeing them and seeing people that knew me as I struggled, or when I moved to LA and struggled, and they saw all of that, and they saw how hard that was, and they knew who I was as a kid, and they see me now, and they're like, of course this is what you would do. And they just know, because that's what I lived, and this is what I did. It is a dream fulfilled. And to have their kind of validation, where they're just like, holy crap, dude, you did it, it's incredibly gratifying. So it's a combination of a billion things, and then it immediately goes to, I'm not doing enough, I'm terrible, it goes from the highest high to like the lowest low, right? I'll get like 99 great reviews about something, and then there's one person to be like, this guy sucks, and I'm like, oh.
Listen, leave it to Green Lantern and his writer to go from brightest day to blackest night.
Yeah, totally. That's good. Yeah, totally true.
Jeremy, man, thank you so much for your time. Congratulations. Green Lantern Corps 1, Aquaman 2 already out, coming out this week. Green Lantern Corps 1, Aquaman 2, Green Lantern 20 coming out this week, just in time, heading into Lent. Congratulations on everything. We got to hang out more in person. Where can we find you on social media if we want to make that happen?
I'm usually on X under Space Kicker, I have spacekicker.com. It has links. It also has Substack. Instagram and Twitter, or whatever it's called, is basically where I'm at most of the time.
All right, my man. It's great catching up with you. Never Jared or Jeff or Joel or any other J name. It is Jeremy Adams. No relation to the other Adams family.
No.
Since I did say Joel's name, Joel Adams is Neil Adams' son, so
Yeah, I get a lot of times that, and even like Arthur Adams, I'll be like, hey, we got the same last name. Like at conventions, like a complete loser,
Listen, man, thank you so much. Congratulations. Hopefully I'll see you at WonderCon.
Yeah, absolutely.